Welcome back to the podcast, everybody. We're here to talk to you about a couple of random things. We're just going to wing it and see what happens. Just kidding, we have a plan this time. But first,
dude,
let's niff.
All right.
What is this, Mythbusters Part 2?
Mythbusters Part 2, yeah, we're going to talk about...
What they don't tell you.
What they don't tell you.
Ready, boys?
Ready.
Let's do it.
I did it early.
All right, me too, right? Shake, shake. Pang, pang.
Ooh. Dude, I hate when it goes up one nostril. Ooh.
Woo!
Gotta get the other nostril.
Oh my God, dude. That one's so strong, I can't even hit it anymore, man.
Here. We all have to go do that. We
You
did
get
that last
that
time,
one.
too. Give me the hype dust.
I'm telling you. Why is that one? Like, that one doesn't lose flavor, dude. That one just... It's like what it feels like to chew 5 gum, man.
It just increases.
Yeah.
It really is.
Oh, we're all crying. Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. So we did a Mythbusters episode a long time ago.
It's like episode 3 or 4.
That was a long time
Yeah.
ago.
Yeah.
And
Called Complete Fiction, if you want to look it up.
yeah, it was. Yeah.
And it was part 1, so this might be part 2.
Part 2, complete fiction.
Regardless, I mean, believe it or not, more bullshit has surfaced. So
Yeah, just, like you just see it every day, right? It's just a constant stream of bullshit
yeah.
to your optic stems that we kind of wanted to go over because it just kind of leads to these unreal expectations, right? Mm-hmm. And it's not like we're the all-knowing authority, but just based off our experience, the people we train, we've been doing this for a long time, just what we see.
Yeah. Well, and it's extra painful for us, and we don't want to see people. I mean, we're here to help.
Yeah.
And not hurt, and it's painful just to watch, so we don't want more people doing that.
Yeah, and especially as, in a community where, everybody here is pretty active, if they're getting told something by somebody else that we think it might not be correct, we just want to make sure that the education's out there so you're not ignorant going in, so you have the authority to question if someone tells you something that kind of crazy.
So what was our first myth?
Number 1.
Well, go for it.
Too old, too young.
Right. That's a huge one, right? Because how many parents do you know say that they don't want to start their kids in strength training, right? Because they don't want to damage potential
Just stunt your
growth.
growth, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
because that was a huge thing even when I was growing up.
Yeah. I actually had a client reach out to me, and he has some kiddos he works out quite a bit, and he was wondering when's a safe time. It's a legitimate question, right?
Yeah.
If you're worried about, I don't want to cause damage or hurt your kids. So it's not necessarily one that's out of a bad place, but what I told him is there's really no wrong time to start some kind of exercise, some kind of fitness program. I think what's cool to do when they're little kiddos is obviously you got to make it fun. You don't want to make it like a strict regimen.
A lot of games.
And I think what kids are learning is just how to move their bodies, right?
Yeah. It's more the fundamentals of how you should be moving, right? That's what you want to teach, right? The weight is really not a factor because
you're not
going to try to make a little kid a power lifter.
No, and I think what I told him was, when you're, let's say, ages maybe like 12 and under or so, it's like your body hasn't gone through puberty. You're not going to have the same kind of hormones where your muscles and everything are developed. You're growing just because you're a growing
and they're way more
child.
Elastic, right?
Yeah.
Like joints move a lot more freely. They're not as stiff. They've got flexibility out the wazoo.
Yeah. And they don't have things like testosterone to signal anabolic signals and muscle growth. So I told him it's like not so much about the weight, but it's like you can still practice deadlifts. You can still practice a squat position.
Yeah.
Yep.
You can actually throw a barbell on their back. It's like you can do that. Now it's like you're not doing grindy singles, but it's like, hey, have them do 10 reps, and you can add a little bit of weight here and there. I mean, there actually are like youth powerlifting meets where kids will like lift fairly heavy, but anybody coaching those is not like waiting for a kid to just have his form break down and crush himself under weight.
Right.
It's more of just like, hey, do you know how to?
And even at the powerlifting meets, they're not going like 100 miles an hour,
just
right?
For fun. They're not. They're not like grinding or pushing, but it's not going to damage their body in terms of like, oh, we're worried about stunting their growth, or it's going to, which really doesn't make any sense, right? It's like anybody playing sports, moving, putting their body under stress or load, that doesn't just stunt your growth.
Yeah, like what do you think your growth plates are? Just like two plates that are like
wait, is that 45
we don't want to
pounds?
Collapse those because if they do, they'll just stop being little person forever.
Kids jumping 10 feet off a swing set and their bones absorbing.
Yeah.
Like, if you put a 45-pound bar in my back,
oh my God,
my knees are like, we're done.
Dude, what kind of crazy crap did you do? I jumped off roofs into snowbanks that weren't even deep enough, dude. Like the barbell is not going to make a difference. No, they're going to do way worse things out there.
Oh yeah.
So when I ran my kids camp, right, it was 12 and under, and then I had 15 or 12 and above. So it was like 15-year-olds. And the biggest thing, like Michael was saying, is you got to make it fun, entertaining. At the same time, preach technique and form, right? You really want to develop these movement patterns as of where they're doing things correctly and they're aware of it themselves, right? So being like, communication's huge with little kids because they're going to do things wrong and never tell you that something hurts. Yeah. That's the one thing I learned, right? Like they'll just go till they collapse, dude. And they go quick when they do collapse. So it's just like, hey, where are you feeling this, man? Is it feeling in your back? What feels funny? Like, So you just want to always keep that communication because they're not as, in tune with their body as say an adult is. That's like, hey, I squat, I got knee pain. For them, if like their knee hurts or something, they're just going to be like, oh, whatever. I guess this is what it is.
Yeah.
They don't know any better.
They have no idea. Yeah.
So I think, starting them young is even better because like how many times have, like, say you go snowboarding or skiing and there's that little like 3-year-old like this tall on like a 2x4 just skiing laps around you, dude.
Oh yeah.
Like it just makes them progress faster as they grow.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, kids are their minds, their bodies are so plastic to learn and adapt, and they're just picking up on everything. So
it's gonna make
kids young in sports or training or lifting.
It's gonna make them all around better athletes.
It's like I know our kids are gonna be bench pressing.
Oh, even
baby bench press.
Big time, dude.
But it's not harmful. I wouldn't think it's like the myth is that it's gonna stunt your growth. Definitely not true.
No, that's not.
Just obviously have the caveats of it's not powerlifting. It's not heavy.
No.
It's very light to even maybe moderate. If that. But mostly just working on form, getting them reps, practice. Just
and body aware.
Learning the movements, the body part, like how they move their body through space. And again, make it fun.
And get that mind-muscle connection, right? Make them understand that, hey, if you're doing a leg extension, you should be feeling it in your leg.
Yeah,
right.
Like,
and I know like in freaking communist China, like they'll have little kids doing Olympic lifting from like wee little babies. Like they'll be doing just the PVC pipes. And it's like one of my old coaches from San Francisco, they went to a camp over there to train with the Chinese Olympic lifters. And it's like those like 8-year-olds look like 35-year-olds here, just whoosh, snappy, but just PVC pipes. They were just crushing it. But I mean, they can learn a technical skill like anybody, and and you can have your kid or kids that you're training, like they can.
And just think about how proficient they'd be growing up.
And they just know it, right? And then when they get to middle school, high school, or when they start actually lifting for like sport, where they actually put on some weight, it's like they're coachable. They know the movements. Their body's familiar with it.
And that's huge around here too, right? Like, if you're thinking about your kid playing high school, even middle school sports, get them in a gym, right? Where they're having to use their body every single day.
Yep.
Right? Because we're going to do different things in here that aren't going to be preached on the football field, on the soccer field, on the basketball court. So having them, even though it's not considered an off season, but having them do something different in their off season like this is going to be huge for them. Right? We don't want to just come in here and practice soccer drills or basketball drills because they're going to do that, the other half of the year. They got to learn how to use their body a different way. So, and then like,
the other end of spectrum.
Other end, complete opposite. Too old. I'm too old to start training. That is, you see that in here all the time.
No, I think actually if probably any population would start benefiting the most from some kind of resistance training. I mean, anybody, any age is going to benefit, but it's like when you get to like 65 plus, if you don't have some form of exercise or putting your body under resistance, it's like
some sort of stress, right?
Like we've said it before, it's like lifting can literally be like the fountain of youth for those people.
Because their bodies you're still going to grow. You're still like your body's still going to adapt to the external load, like, and even in the most important time, right? When your body wants to get frail because you're not going to be moving as much.
No, and
that's why it's more important to be in here, under load, under stress, making those bones stay strong, making those tendons stay strong.
Well, your body's at a natural point where it's like sarcopenia, where you're losing muscle mass. Your bones, like for especially women, like osteoporosis, like you're losing bone density, you're losing muscle, and it's like if you just let the body go as it naturally would. Like that's how people are just slowly fading into like not being able to move, feeling weak, not being able to get up. But if they do start resistance training, it's like boom, that turns the tables of time. Like you're just able to be stronger. You can push like your client Ray, right?
Yeah,
in his 70s, like stronger than most 20.
Dude, he is the definition of I'm going to get strong or die trying.
Yeah,
you know, and that's That's just Ray's mentality.
Yeah.
Right. And the thing is when he first came in, it wasn't. He thought he was fragile, right? And
well, and that's just it's the best way with good program, good training to be like anti-fragile. It's like keep your body strong, keep it, and it's like if you do it an intelligent way, it's just going to help your body.
That's one thing is like with Ray, right? He did CrossFit prior and just hurt himself terribly because technique wasn't preached. He was training way too much at his age, right? When he gets to that age, like honestly, less is way more. We say that all the time.
Yeah.
Right? For Ray, he comes in twice a week. We are still making leaps and bounds to the point where he says that, and this is like quote unquote, is just like he is the strongest than he's ever been right now at 73 years old.
That's nuts.
Yeah. It's
right?
crazy, right?
Just because we've taken the most scientific approach about it, where he's end capping his week with exercise, right? So he's getting a lot of break, a lot of recovery. I've been preaching, he was doing in the Fury 56, we've been preaching nutrition, how that builds, and he's filling out, man. Even like 5 a.m. clients, like, dude, Ray's getting kind of thicker. Even Jerry was like, dude, Ray's filling out. How is he putting on weight at 73 and muscle mass at 73, right? Because he's doing the smart thing. He's eating better. He's putting himself in uncomfortable situations. Now, Ray has the mentality of, I'm going to get strong or die trying, and we push him a little bit, but we're never pushing him to like the point of max effort.
No, he doesn't need to.
He's not pulling like the 700-pound max effort pull, right? We're like 80%. 90% maybe at the most. Because at that age we're just thinking about injury, right? I can coach him to have flawless technique, but if he didn't eat enough of the day, or he's just not recovering because he takes longer to recover, if I'm pushing him like that week by week, he's going to break down easier and not bounce back from it.
Definitely. Like recovery is going to be a little different when you're at that age, and obviously you don't recover as well, and you're going to have like longer. That's why he has like longer rest periods. He's going to need more protein because your body doesn't absorb protein as well. But if you take all those factors in consideration, it's like end of the day, he's still resistance training. Just at his appropriate level.
And like just like how the session would go with somebody like that, right? For him, it's not like my typical client where I do the compound movement and 4 to 5 different accessories. We might get through the compounds and another accessory work. As long as he's got enough rest in between that he can get his reps. So it's dumbed down, but the intensity still stays high.
Well, and he's got a pretty decent warm up too. I always see him doing a lot of extra stuff before his compound.
If you need more warm up, you don't have quite the adequate blood flow. All that stuff. There's all these little tweaks that you make, but at the end of the day, it looks 80% similar to just like
it's just different, just so he can. Like it's based like everybody else in here, right? Compound and accessories, just like Trey is saying, right? We emphasize the warm up and we emphasize the rest interval between our sets, because that's what he needs. And one thing is to bring up too is like, what is the classic saying about people who stop working? It's like when you stop working, that's when you die. Right? Well, what Ray has found is, and I think that the classic of why that's so true is when people stop working, they just become sedentary, right? Well, now you're putting someone in a situation where they're strength training and they're adding resistance, and that's why he's seeing growth, right? He could be out walking or doing something else or working on a ranch, and he might get the benefit of maintaining strength, but he's in here doing work and then adding progressive overload on top of that and getting stronger that way.
And I think I just alluded to it earlier, but again, for women, it's like resistance training is pretty much the only or the main best stimulus to get for that, osteoporosis, having your bones weakening. So it's like that time and time again through the research is like super beneficial. So you can't deny that like women at that age, especially like 50 plus, I really need to have some form of resistance training.
Lauren came in, she's got osteopenia. So similar. And then beyond that, after a few months, she comments a lot. Even her daughter commented on how much more stable she looks walking around, because
she does.
She's got real bad balance issues, and we're not doing crazy Bosu ball balance training. We're just doing weights, resistance training.
Like
that's it.
If she's squatting, right, she has to balance a weight on her back. And feel strong at that. That's going to carry over to just.
And also, like we've said before, if you're trying to work balance with a Bosu ball, how do you progressively overload that?
Right.
How do you get better once you've mastered the Bosu ball? Right. Now, are you going to throw a barbell on her back and really like make her hurt when she gets like screwed up? Like if she fails that,
and she's not walking on Bosu balls out here.
It's the basics, right?
Yeah. But yeah, for balance too, for older people, obviously the strength we talked
and then
about.
functionality, right?
Yeah.
Just because they're going to be doing stuff that seems normal for everybody else, like bending down to pick something up, that's going to be harder for them, going upstairs, going downstairs.
That's one thing I try to do, especially if they're at that age. Like I'll have clients that, even if they're not rehab, but like I have an example of a guy had a knee replacement, just said, hey, I don't feel quite as strong and as balanced as I want to be. So he took him in here, got him some workouts. But then it's like from a functional standpoint, it's like, oh, dude, you can't pick up stuff from the ground. Or like the lunge position, which is like what you kind of do when you're already on the ground trying to get up.
Yep.
Zero strength there, like no output.
Yep.
And it's like if you get to a point, not even just because of an injury, but it's like if you get to a certain age and you don't get into those positions or you don't ever train them or don't have strength in them, you'll lose that for sure. That's how people get to the point where like, I can't get up off the toilet, or I can't, like having stairs are hard, or if I get on the ground, like I have to call life alert, like I can't get up. But if you use the gym as a place to practice or just throw in those variations of movements, if you use them, you'll maintain them and build strength in them. And that's what we do, is like we'll take you through those positions that you're really challenged with: stairs, getting off the ground, lunging. The gym is the place where you can build capacity in all of those, and then you could maintain that for life, really.
Yeah. It's just like, and some of those simple movements like lunging can be just huge for people, right?
Yeah.
Think about a Tessa, right? Tessa has been with me since the garage, and I think in the last 3 months we've finally mastered a lunge, right? Where she can do it consistently and do walking lunges. But it was we went to the basics of her, holding on to things and lowering herself to the ground. Because she just, how often do you practice that?
Well, it's hilarious. Like Big T, right? He's only 50, strong as an ox. Like the guy can squat 500 plus pounds. And then he was having some hip issues. So it's like, well, let's just try, we're going to wean off some squatting heavy, and then let's work on your lunge. The guy can squat 500 pounds, and he had to use TRX straps and was shaking just trembling with TRX to do a lunge. I was like, what?
Yeah.
It's like, I was like, you're so strong, but it's like, he had that much lack of capacity in like a single leg movement or a lunge or in those ranges,
or just weaknesses that aren't being mastered in
and those
squat,
the muscles that are not worked per se in the squat directly. And it's like now his hips are better, he can lunge better, and it's like clearing up some of that stuff. Even for someone as young as Terry's only 50 and super strong. Yeah. So it's not just like the 75-year-old that's older and more sedentary. It's like you could be a strong athlete and you're like, you still suck at like a lunge.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And it's like, and it helped clear up some of his issues in terms of his hips and how stiff he was. And so it's like we worked on like really basic stuff. And that is where like, those functional movements can kind of really, that's what we look at. We kind of take people not just through only squat, bench, dead, which are important, but it's like we always
look at weaknesses.
We look at single leg. We look at, rotation through the hips and shoulder and everything. It's like you'll look at different weaknesses. Yeah. And not just the main stuff. Because, some people are incredibly, like a Tessa or Big T, like they're lacking in something so basic.
Like a Tessa is like the strongest gal I have in here, I'm pretty sure, for the age group, right? Yeah. But when, she can squat, 200 pounds plus, and then she can barely do 2 walking lunges. Yeah. What's the deficit here? Glute weakness, something like that we've got to bring up. So
that can run into issues later.
Yeah. And then just the compensation over time, right? If you're super weak with one muscle over a period of time, it's gonna damage you. You're gonna start compensating with other things that shouldn't be firing.
Yeah.
Right? So our first day with a client looks like that. For all of us, is we take you through the movements that is going to show us where the weaknesses are. Yeah. Yep. Right. We probably aren't going to throw you under a barbell the first day if you haven't ever used a barbell. We just want to see how the ankles, the knees, the hips, everything are moving. It might be as simple as teaching you how to sit down.
Well, some people
don't know how to sit down.
No, most people
they just fall.
People just try to have them rep out some box squats to even just 90, and it's like that's exhausting.
Yeah.
Or if you actually try to take them in like a normal squat that's below 90, it's like,
nope.
How many people aren't there on a day-to-day basis?
Oh, dude.
There's like probably some people years before they've actually squatted below parallel.
That's one.
Your car, your toilet, your seat at work.
Everything is higher. Yeah.
And then it's like, hey, let's just have you go 2 inches below. And they're like,
whoa, yeah.
They can't do it.
Dude, just think
it's like, oh my gosh, all these muscles are sore. It's like, because you actually squatted below 90 just once.
You're hitting end range, right? Like you're stretching that muscle out.
Or I run into people that are older with like shoulder issues, right? Especially as like people get less mobile. It's like they don't actually ever take their arm all the way overhead.
No.
Right. And it's kind of a wonder why like maybe their rotator cuff, their shoulder gets funky.
Compensation, right? You turn that off all the time.
So we'll have people do movements that they're getting to end range, taking their joints to positions maybe they're not hitting on a normal day-to-day basis.
Yep.
But that'll keep you moving well, keep the shoulder, keep the joints, keep the hips, everything kind of moving well, maintaining strength there so that, if you can overhead press a decent amount of weight, it's like you shouldn't have issue grabbing the tomato can, It's like people tweak their shoulder doing crap like that, right?
Yeah.
Or then they wake up one day and they can't get off the ground when they fall. It's like, because you can't do a lunge or you can't reach overhead. So that's part of it. I mean, for young to old, it's like
that's for everybody, right? That's that one thing they don't tell you is like if you're going to a coach that has a program for you written on the first day, back out.
No, you want to individualize.
That's not right at all, right? I would say even your first 2 weeks with a coach, he's trying to learn how you move and where your weaknesses are if he's a good one.
It can take multiple
right?
sessions.
It can take I've had clients that I have literally taken through test days for 3 weeks because there's so much stuff going on and I'm just trying to analyze what I need to bring up.
Yep.
Well, I think a difference between a good coach, and I see this a lot in PT, is like people don't really value the assessment, how they watch you move.
Yep.
Right. A lot of PTs, and it happens with trainers for sure too, but they're like, for PT, for example, it's like, this is a post-op, blah, 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 like knee or shoulder, and like, they're doing the same.
Here's the checklist. I got to get this
protocol that I follow, right? But if you don't follow their individual needs or their individual deficits, you don't really have a thorough assessment.
Right.
You really don't have a good idea how their body moves, and their body could be totally different. Like big
T.
It
is, dude. Everybody
could have a totally different need and demand. And the same thing comes to training too. It's like if you're just going to run through all of our basic program and everyone runs the same program, it's like then you wouldn't maybe notice a test is deficit or a test is lacking, or how that could potentially show up in other movements or lifts.
Exactly.
So it's like you really want to, if you're a good coach, see how their body moves through the whole spectrum of kind of different movements, positions, taking their joints through different positions.
It's just like Tess is a classic example of that, right? While we started squatting, I noticed that the lunges were weak, but we pressed the squats. We worked on lunges. All of a sudden, she's having IT band flare up.
Yep.
Right? Knees are starting to hurt because why? In her squat, her glutes aren't activating, right? She's not controlling her knees. She's got some weakness back there. How do we fix that? Bring up the weakness. Yep. So we focused on lunges for a long time. Yep. And then all of a sudden, all that pain went away.
Yep.
Right. So it's just it has to be individualized. So if you're going to a coach with like I said, first day program is here's what you're going to run. You question that because how are they going to know how you move? Everybody moves different, like Mike's saying.
Yep.
Right. Everyone has different levers, different mechanics, different weaknesses. Even us, all of us. Like holding a glute bridge for me is like death.
Oh yeah.
Right. Yeah. I'm all hamstring. That's all that's holding it up. So working glutes, RDLs, stuff like that is huge for me.
Yeah, for sure. So any age, old,
right?
It's beneficial. So there's definitely two myths in terms of you're too old, too young. It just depends on individual needs based on those ages, but 100% it's beneficial. And no reason why you shouldn't have your kiddos, or if you're older, or if your grandparents or anybody, shouldn't have some form of resistance training.
Yeah.
Now, you guys mentioned injuries multiple times in that whole thing. What about the dude who comes in and he's like, I can't work out. I injured my knee in high school.
Yeah, that's bullshit.
I can't squat ever again in my entire life.
Yeah, you got injured one time. This one thing happened once.
Yeah. So
from here on out,
that'd be a nice life to live, if it was reality.
Yeah.
It's like, geez, I wish I would have got injured earlier. I wouldn't have to do that.
The course of my life changed forever. Yeah. And we make fun of it, and part of it is maybe people just have a hard time figuring out how to get back to it, or they've been told lifting is going to cause you pain or injuries. It's
we talked
be careful because you're bad
episode.
because of deadlifts, or I've heard multiple times squats are bad for your knees, and it's like no wonder your knees hurt. So doctor, friends, family being like, well,
maybe you should stop.
That kid that came in that was squatting 500 plus pounds, he injured his back a couple times a few years prior, but he's squatting 500 pounds, but he will not deadlift because he's scared of hurting his back. Brother, you squat 500 pounds.
Yeah, you could deadlift.
You could do this, man.
No way. Did I meet this guy?
That was the kid that was in here on Sunday or Saturday, whatever.
Oh, dude. I'm so glad he didn't tell me that. He probably would have never came back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
no.
one, the deadlift is going to help your back regardless. A hip hinge movement like that, where you're actually working your posterior chain. Yeah. It's like, what do people think?
Yeah.
Like, why do you get injured?
Yeah.
It's not just like this weird random thing that happens. It's because there's a weakness. There's something that broke down. You got to build it back up.
Well, there's so many factors that go into it, and it's like the lifting part is just a variable, but people also injure themselves, mowing their lawns, cranks starting in like, my back, or I've had people, like they hurt themselves like tying their shoes, right? So it's like just because that the lift was at that moment that you maybe felt the pain or injury, it's like doesn't mean that everyday life that people aren't getting injured or having.
There's a lot of other factors that played a role in that.
Yeah, so you can't necessarily just pinpoint it to lifting or say it's bad. And I think the doses are the poisons in the dose, right? It's like sometimes people are doing too much, too heavy, too soon. Form's not there. So that can, there's a time where your body reaches a threshold or can have injury, but appropriate dose, appropriate time, maybe appropriate like rebuilding into the movement. There's no reason just because at one time it caused pain that it wouldn't that you couldn't do it someday in the future.
Right.
So then we were talking earlier too. It's like people will say that like lifting, like people here, it's like it's bad for knees, causes injuries. We were looking up earlier, like statistics wise, right? So a lot of people play a lot of different activities or sports, and for whatever reason, like
Powerlifting seemed to be like it's like
just barbell sports or deadlifting or
just
squatting.
strength training in general is like the thing that's going to hurt you the most.
But I mean, the ironic thing is pretty much the opposite compared to like other sports. So it's like, just as an example for some statistics. So they did a study where for per 1,000 hours of participation in a sport, the rate of injuries, powerlifting's at the very bottom.
0.8 something?
0.85.
Yeah.
0.85 for maybe a novice adolescent lifter. And at the highest level, so these are people that are just pushing their body to the absolute threshold, a 5.8.
Out of 1,000 hours.
So you're looking at probably like 1 to 5 injuries or whatever per hours, or 1,000 hours, right?
Yep.
Yeah, per 1,000 hours, having an injury. So, and if you want to compare that, if you were going to go on the treadmill, that has 6. So it's actually a little higher than elite powerlifters. So more people get injured on the treadmill than they do as an elite powerlifter.
That's a crazy example because I'm sure I've heard this several times. Both of you guys have too. Like somebody that doesn't want to lift weights because it's dangerous. I'm just going to hit the treadmill.
I'm just going to go do some cardio.
And I'm pretty sure those 6 are like dumbasses like me who's like top speed and then try to jump on it or dare your brother to do it. So it's like they're probably stupid injuries.
Or who knows, dude? Like, I don't know.
But I mean, people just maybe running repetitively. So another example is just people that are runners. They have 12.1 per 1,000. So that's more than double the powerlifting injury rate. And then if we're looking at normal sports, ones we probably all played or your kids play, it's like we look at sports like basketball, that's at 14. Sports like hockey, that's at 15 per 1,000. And then soccer, a super common sport we've all played, 35.
Yeah.
And then obviously like a sport like rugby, that's super high. That's like 43 per 1,000. That's a rough and tough sport. Yeah. But again, powerlifting is at the bottom of that list.
Yeah, and that's pushing, right? Pushing your body.
It's as risky as tennis. So tennis is about in that 5 range. And how many people play tennis and they're retired and they play tennis, or they're like,
that's like golf, dude.
Yeah, it seems like this low threshold injury sport because it's like any age is doing it, right? But then for some reason, if you're a power lifter, that's considered more dangerous. And I think what people put in perspective is like it's a very controlled sport.
It is.
Yeah.
You have spotters, you have pins to help you. You have you control the weight. It's not random. It's not dynamic where you don't know what's going to happen next.
Yeah.
Use Ray as an example. You never go to that 100% absolute max. You control.
Unless even if you're an elite lifter, it's still you've been working. There's a progress. There is a plan of how you got up to that max.
And then combined, some of those injuries are probably just due to ignorance, like they're just bad programming, pushing like
ego lifting, right?
So you could even probably eliminate a lot of injuries with proper coaching and programming. But even so, with all of us just like are people that just go ham or just don't have a good program or coach, like they're still not getting injured
with it to
at
be
a
at
high
like
rate.
what 5 out of 1,000, even for elite lifters.
Yeah, so it's like
that's like people squatting 800, deadlifting over 7, benching 4.
Yeah, elite is like just crazy.
1,800 total is like elite, right?
Yeah.
So
those 1,000 hours of training, they're going to get like, you know, like every like five
injuries.
It's like that's nothing.
And like what? And like I'm curious to know what they classify as an injury, or if it ever listed. Like, is it just a tweak, or is it like like a full grade muscle tear, or like
that'd be nice.
Probably.
Yeah.
I think what they usually in these studies they do is like something that takes you out of your sport.
Yeah,
because
it's something like you tweak your back.
If my shoulder was hurting, but I could still bench 500, that's not an injury per se.
Right,
It's
that's
a
more
flare
like-
up. Or soccer players, they have like knee pain, but they're playing. But I think it's like when you actually had it where
like a torn ACL or something like that.
Something you can't play, like you're out of games, you're out of sessions. That's usually how they qualify the injury in these kind of studies. But again, treadmill, running above, rowing machine is above powerlifting, and rowing or just runners is double.
Christ.
It's like everybody runs, and it's like. And you see people, which is great. I love it. I'm not against, and first off, I'm not against any of these things.
No.
I played hockey, I played soccer, I played
We're
basketball.
just pointing out the facts here.
I'm just like, now I'm even older. I'm like, I don't want to get hurt, so I'm going to not go skiing. I'll probably just go lift.
Yeah.
It's like, I mean, honestly, like we're at the point now because we care about our powerlifting. It's like, I don't really want to go like run, or I don't want to go like on skiing, or like if they're going to be like, oh, bro, we're going to do like a quick like, football pickup game or something like,
oh, dude, no way.
It's like if I had to cut and turn or anything like that.
Oh, man. I just think about snowboarding, like how many times I've caught myself like this, dude. Like I'm just thinking, I'm going to catch myself, both my wrists are just going to spray. And there goes my bench, dude. I can't do bench like that.
No, and like really the only reason we get injured now is like if misgrooved, which is, we have spotters again, or
fatigue
if like we just push ourselves too hard. And for us, we're probably not sleeping enough sometimes.
Not at all.
Nutrition's there, but at the same time, it's like we were very infrequently like injured. We have little aches and pains, but it's like we're just not. I mean, I know when I played football in high school, I was beat up and I've torn stuff and I've had fractured bones.
Me too.
I had way more crap go on than I did in so in like, let's say just high school, 4 years of high school football.
We've been
10 times as injuries
right?
is like 10 compared to the number of injuries I had in like I've been
decade.
lifting even during that football time, but like afterwards, like a decade of just like heavy lifting.
Yeah.
I mean, I've had really no major injuries from lifting yet. And it's because we try to be mindful of our training and how we do it, and we have a good program and coach to follow now. So,
and you make adjustments as needed too.
Yeah, and then I think even if you do an inevitable pain, injury, something that's going to happen regardless. If you're going to be an active person, and I always like the saying, it's like I'd rather have an injury than have like a disease. Like people that are sedentary don't work out. It's like, so pick your poison in terms of being active. Obviously, if you want to do really low level stuff like walk, but it's like we have fulfillment, we have fun and enjoy lifting.
Yeah.
But it is keeping us healthy, despite that we're pushing our bodies to the limit. It's like our bones, our joints, our motion we're maintaining. So it's like
how many people called me insane after I pulled that 700, right? It's like, why would you do that? Like you didn't need to do that. It's like, you guys don't understand. It really wasn't that dangerous for me.
No,
right?
I mean, he's done right below it.
Yeah,
for times
28 pounds
he's
less.
had with bands on top of it, like held more than 700 at the top.
Yeah.
So this isn't like out of the blue.
No,
and this is a planned approach. So it's like if you have planned programming, I mean, if someone's new and they try to do something insane like that, or they just out of the blue, like, hey, I don't ever practice singles and I'm just going to practice a single. It's like, your injury risk, because that's a huge
has gone up.
Random training stimulus.
Yeah.
But for us, like we're hitting. I mean, we've talked about our program before. We're hitting 90% plus every week.
Yeah.
So
And a heavy variation of deadlifts twice a month.
And we know kind of where we're at. So it's not like I'd love to hit this number just because I'm going to do it.
Yeah, that wasn't out of the ballpark.
Chancellor
right?
pulled 670 something, 674
672
like
at the
a year
meet.
ago.
Yeah.
So it's like, for him to do 25 pounds a year later is like not that insane.
Yeah.
It's like, it was like a lot of training, a lot of effort, a lot of like.
But just look at the path it took to get there, right?
Yeah.
Because it wasn't just like, hey, I pulled 672. A month later, I'm going to try 700. It was like, no, I need to work and build myself up to that.
Yeah. And then again, it's like if it was too heavy, he drops it, right? If something hurts, he can let it go. It's like, you know. And then like, what are you going to do in soccer or sports? It's like someone takes out your knee. It's like you don't have control over that. Like there's so many moving factors.
Yeah.
It's so dynamic, and you're jumping, you're running, you're cutting.
Powerlifting, you're in control of all of it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, like, and injuries happen because it's like, something could tear if you're pushing yourself to a limit. But like how our clients train, we're not trying to like see you guys like nosebleed grind, squat like the elite lifters. So again, like when it was more in that range, it was like less than one per thousand. It's like, I don't know. It's like, you don't have to. We talked about last episode, embrace the darkness. Like you don't have to be that scared.
No.
Like, and that's like just from a statistical standpoint, like it can look intense and badass to see somebody lifting heavy, but it's really not that risky. It's
No.
like, you guys aren't that brave.
No.
You're not warriors. You're not like insane. It's like,
Yeah.
this is actually pretty low yield risk.
Yeah.
It's like, I think the guy that's 50 and playing like, off like just basketball with his buddies, like, oh god, that guy's brave.
Yeah, yeah, for
It's like
sure.
he has like 10 times the risk of me getting hurt.
There's so many variables that he can't control there.
Oh yeah, we're
right?
sissies, dude. I get so scared of like playing sports now, like
Yeah.
just real
maybe,
sports.
maybe powerlifters are just control freaks, dude. Think about it, dude. Like,
I don't want to be in pain. I don't
Yeah.
want to tear my knee. I've had to repair or rehab so many knees. I'm like, I don't want to tear my ACL.
Yeah.
No way.
So I'm just gonna squat, bench, and deadlift, and do powerlifting because again, the yield of injury rates is super low.
and then you think about those sports specific, right?
Yeah.
Like, change my mind that a squat, bench, or deadlift can't improve every sport,
Oh yeah,
right? There is truth behind that. So like every athlete should be doing compound movements.
Have you seen athletes avoiding compound movements or coaches for that matter?
Oh yeah, dude.
tell 'em not
There's totally coaches that out there. It's like, hey, you shouldn't squat or you shouldn't be lifting weights because of basketball. Right?
Yeah,
You shouldn't
that's
be
something I heard as a kid.
Yeah.
For sure.
I think it's mostly. My guess would be 9 times out of 10 like ignorance of the coach. Like, I don't know
Bad
how to
coaching.
Squat. I don't know how to squat. I don't want to teach it. But I mean, if you look at what those movements will do,
Yeah,
they'll strengthen all the muscles you're going to use in like soccer,
Everything.
basketball.
right.
And if you're only doing,
Jump training
and
or
da-da-da.
conditioning. But that's what you're doing during season too.
Yeah.
So it's like now our potential for injury has gone up because overuse is going up.
Mm-hmm.
Why not back off, do some strength training, build the tendons, the bones, the muscles, so that when you go into season, you can do that better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't understand where like hockey players should only be doing like rotational movements or adductor work. Why can't they just be strong all around too? Or, why is it so bad for a basketball player to bench press?
Yeah.
Right? It's going to work the shoulders. You're going to have stronger shoulders. It doesn't have to be a max out. We don't have to like just blow them up that way. It's just training them with that stimulus, right? They can be sub 100% and still get stronger that way.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I don't know why. It's like only in football you really see people that are used to lifting, but it's almost the cultural thing because it's like we all notice the benefit when we started lifting. It's not just because it's a more contact sport. It's like our legs are stronger.
We all had that friend in high school that like was trying to save his knees, so he didn't play sports or lift weight because he was a good skier.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, if you would have lifted weights, you would have been even a better skier, and your knees probably wouldn't have hurt you so much. Like, that was one thing for me when I was snowboarding a lot. I noticed that if I, because Michael and I were kind of bench bros back in the day, we didn't hit legs very often, like
leg press.
But when I did hit legs consistently, my snowboarding season was way better.
Yeah.
I wasn't as tired, like I didn't fatigue as quickly. I didn't have aches and pains.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Weird how that works.
No, and I hope the word gets out. It's starting to get more popular, but it's like elite athletes now are even more into like Michael Jordan. He had Tim Grover was his strength and conditioning coach. He got into lifting. Like it used to be like it makes you slow, bulky, and it's like you could stay at the same weight. I mean, powerlifters do it. They'll be like, I'm going to weigh 150 pounds and get stronger. Yeah. So you don't have to put on any additional size.
That's that neural drive and stuff, right? Learning how to recruit muscles. And at the end of the day, what makes you fast? Muscle mass does. What do you think is contracting and moving you? A muscle.
Yeah.
Like, how does that make sense? I'm going to get bulky because I'll be slow. If you get fat, if you have mass, that's not helping you. But if you put on muscle, you're going to get faster.
Yeah.
Right?
So, yeah. I mean, you could be not doing any of that and get mass and fat. Like you just get crappy diet. So it's as long as your diet's on point. And I think the main benefit that I think a lot of the research in those shows, like the reason that strength training is good is what we talked about earlier, even for older, younger people, is like it increases resiliency in your joints.
Yeah.
You get to expose your body to those kind of loads, good for maintaining and finding weak points. And like you can use that training for directly targeting things that will help your sport.
Yeah. And like one sport that just, blows me away that, I've worked with a lot of runners. Like talk about staying in my lane. I'm not a runner at all, never have been, but I have done a lot of research of why intensity is so important for runners, right? How many runners do you know that come into the workout and just do a lot of volume, a lot of light work, high reps because they want endurance? That's not going to help you because think about what you're doing during that sport. It's a lot of repetitive, high volumes things. You're running, your knees are just getting pounded. You need to be able to build not only the bone and the tissue and the tendons and ligaments around it. And the only way that's going to happen is through high intensity, 80% load, 70, 80%.
Yeah.
You know, you can push it. You don't have to be a power lifter. That's one thing we want to preach in here is not everybody needs to be a power lifter, and squat, bench, and deadlift doesn't mean you're a power lifter.
No.
That means you're just training compound movements.
Yeah.
What you should be doing.
Your strength training, resistance training. That's what we're more
those are the staples of training.
Yeah.
Right? Those three movements that work the whole body.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, and in terms of finding weaknesses, like, okay, you can squat a crazy amount of weight, but you can't lunge. I mean, how you just talked about how chaotic sports can be. What happens when you find yourself in a crazy position that you're weak in, and you have to all of a sudden take a bunch of load in that position?
Yeah,
what's going to happen?
You want a history of learning how to use that, right?
Yeah.
Being in that position before.
Yeah.
And that's where variation can come in too, right?
Yeah.
Variation of training and compound movements. You know, like with injury, that guy that says I have knee pain, I can't squat to depth. What is the problem of squatting to a high box and working down slowly? Or what is the problem of, you know, learning a different movement that activates the same muscles?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? I think one of the biggest things in here with the females is they all want to grow their glutes, right?
The booty training.
And they are just going they've just done backward approach to this whole thing, right? And especially when we're talking about the compound movement of squat.
Yeah.
It has been shown over and over and over again that glute activation is the highest in a deep squat, in a squat position, right?
Yeah, everyone gets like cute on Instagram with like these little like bandy movements, and then they'll do like kickbacks on the Smith machine, and it's like these tons of just reps, volume, It's like you'd be better off doing 5 rep squats.
What they're not showing you is that they're
squat.
squatting too. That's what they're not showing you, because that's not the sexy thing, because that scares people, right?
Yeah.
Right? No one is. What's more intimidating, a barbell squat or doing little kickbacks with a band on?
Yeah.
Oh, I could do the band. Everyone could do the band.
Right. Well, and if they post their squats, I mean, they didn't invent the squat, but they could invent a nice, spicy little routine with a band that you've never seen before, and that's the secret sauce.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But everyone's seen squats before.
Well, and just those are so limited in terms of how you can load it, right? What do you do? 1 band, 2 bands, more reps. It's like, yes, you can train hip abduction and get those. It's like that lateral glute med muscle stronger, but that's not the rest of the butt.
No.
There's a lot more to the booty than just like those lateral glute muscles or those little burns you feel.
And you can work all of that at once in a squat.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
So-
the glute, everything's working to stabilize the knees and hips.
Yeah.
And it's just, that's a progressive movement where now as you add more weight, as time goes on, more reps, it's like the body has to adapt and grow.
Right.
Same reason you could grow your pecs, your biceps, your quads.
Yeah.
So the squat is going to use a lot of glute, especially like a nice deep squat.
Yep.
So training the squat that way is going to be, and I'd say, squat is probably number 1. Then I'd say more of like a hip hinge.
Yeah. Anything hip hingey, like hip thrust.
Hip thrust, or like just a normal RDL. Or hip hinge. Like that's obviously, especially if you contract at the top, that's all glute.
Lunges, I would say, probably is the next, right?
Glute.
Lunges is huge for glute training, just because it's like you're on one leg, you're having to control the knee, so glute is really turned on, activated there.
Oh yeah, I don't know why, but whenever we do step back lunges, dude, my glutes are the most sore.
Destroyed, dude. Oh yeah,
You don't
man.
even feel it when you're doing it. It's like this is kind of heavy.
Or
Kinda
you
spicy,
do
and then
towards
next
the
day-
end, you're just like, oh god, yeah.
So lunging is a really big one, and then final at the bottom tier would be like hip abduction stuff. Like if you're doing the bandy
But
stuff.
Instagram wants to show you the other way around.
Yeah, but most people are like, I got to work my glutes, and they just do bands.
Yeah.
Or
Well,
just
and then
like
you got to think about
lightweight.
that too, as far as like what you're saying earlier is how do you progress that? Add more bands, more reps. Well,
Yeah.
the more reps you do, the more overuse injury you're going to happen.
Yeah.
More strain, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, why don't you get more bang for your buck with lower reps and a little bit higher weight doing a movement that works everything?
Yeah.
Or you get super strong in one movement and everything else is weak because you're too scared to squat. It's
Yeah.
like you can
Right.
build these like super compensation patterns.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, look at anybody that can squat a lot, and they'll have like good glute development. So it's
Yeah.
not just the
not
band
me. I have like a 9-year-old's ass. So
stuff. He's a genetic deformity.
yeah, it's like a frog, dude. Like honestly, when I stand up, like a frog comes to a point and then legs come out. That's kind of what I have. It's just like back to hamstrings.
Yeah,
So
Frogs are cool, though.
oh yeah.
yeah.
That's all right.
But yeah, booty training 101, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Dude, when I was in the military, they were giving me shots in my butt, for like boot camp. And the nurse like comes in, I pull down my pants and she laughs. And I was like, what? She's like, that's the cutest little ass I've ever seen. I was
Just
like,
a baby's bottom.
stop.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's petite. It's cute.
I like to use myself as an example for squats, building the glutes, because when I was in college I was in personal trainer education, we were doing a body assessment, and the teachers both, same thing, they laughed at me. They're like, Trey, you really don't have an ass, do you?
Dude.
And it fucking hurt, dude.
I've been working my butt
say that to
since
somebody?
military, man.
Yeah.
And
that was day one where I started squatting heavy.
I'm pretty sure I went up like 3 cup sizes on my butt.
What?
That's how they
right
do
now,
it,
that's
right?
3 cup sizes?
Yeah, dude. It was like an innie, dude.
Jesus.
It was like a concave.
Yeah, me too. It's all right.
But
Girls like booties too, I guess. Right?
Well, how'd we do
Guys
it?
gotta get
We
booties.
squatted heavy, did it frequently, a lot of hip hinging, everything we just said.
Yeah.
I've never really done banded abduction work, so that wasn't to do that.
Mm-mm.
And Michael is just all tits, arms, and ass, and I know he's not doing banded work, so it's all squatting. His is more genetic, really, honestly.
You came out of
Just out of the
you started that way.
Yeah.
Ass. I don't know.
Must be nice,
Someone
man.
just gifted.
Yeah. You got like the whole cake. We got like 2 little mini muffins over here.
Mini
dude.
muffins, and
They're
I had to work-
delicious.
I had to
Like
work
they
for
look
those
good,
mini
right?
muffins.
But
Not voluptuous though.
No,
It's okay.
what's our next one?
that's it.
That's it.
We
That's
covered
all?
it.
Do you have another myth?
No.
I mean, we kind of just killed 8 birds with 1 stone almost right there.
Yeah.
That's the bulk of it.
There can be another one, part 3 someday.
Yeah.
Yeah,
there
I
is.
think the biggest one I wanted to cover was the compounds, though. That's a good one.
Yeah. Yeah. You could just, those need to be a staple. And there's going to be variations of it too, right? You can't just, like we've said it forever, you can't just beat yourself into the ground doing the same movements all the time and expect results. You've got to confuse the muscles, right?
Yeah.
You've got to throw variation in there. You've got to do banded squats. You got to do a different high bar, low bar, sumo, conventional, wide grip, close grip, bench. You've got to be training in different variations too as you're progressively overloading, because you're going to develop these strengths and your body's just going to play to your strengths always, which will create weakness. You want when everything gets stronger, everything gets stronger, right? So you want to bring up all of the weaknesses too. So I think that's pretty much it.
Yeah, man.
Got it covered.
Just make sure that you approach your coach if you aren't here, if you're somewhere else, and make sure they know what they're doing too. You know, you guys hopefully have learned a lot from all of our repetitive episodes of us telling you this is what you need to look for. But yeah, just keep that in mind. Don't be ignorant.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, build yourself, conquer adversity, and repeat daily. Do these things, follow a nice program, and you will succeed. Punch the mic.